Thank you, John Wagnon. All right, if you're old school and believe that preachers should always wear jackets, I have one, and it's right here. I'm not having it because it's getting hot up here. But great to be back in Mississippi. It's been several years since I've been here. By the way, is it 3 syllables or 4? I need to know. Mississippi, I hear that, or Mississippi. Is she married or not? That's what's at stake here. If 4 syllables, Mississippi is proper. 3, I'm hearing. Oh, okay. You guys talk among yourselves. Come up with something. Thrive. How to thrive, not just survive. I want to start with a parable tonight. So get settled in your chairs, get comfy, have a little bit of story time. Tell you a story, put on your allegory hats, because it's an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. Remember that from Sunday school? This takes place in a high school, probably like the one you went to, not too far away from here. And involves two main characters. First of all, there was Gina. Oh, Gina. Gina was a senior. And all the guys in the high school loved Gina. Oh, Gina. Oh, she's the hottest girl in the high school. And when she walked by, guys just go, oh, there she goes. And, oh, Gina. And she wasn't just beautiful, but she was also just the life of the party. Had a great laugh. And, just personality plus. And all the guys, to be Gina's date would just be the ultimate. So Gina sat with her table of, loyal admirers, the Ginettes, some people called them. And they sat at kind of the A-list table in the cafeteria, and they just, held court there in the cafeteria. That was Gina. Gina was looking out, it was the beginning of her senior, she's looking out over her kingdom one lunch hour, and she sees a guy she never noticed before. That's funny. I thought I knew who all the attractive guys in school were, but she looks out, and she sees this tall, kind of doofus-looking guy. Him and his friends are throwing lima beans at people over in the corner of the table. She's like, I don't know, who's this guy? I never noticed him before. Well, something had happened. This guy's name was Fritz. Fritz was an official card-carrying doofus. But somewhere over the summer, Fritz had grown tall. Fritz had grown a little more muscular. And all of a sudden, Fritz had tipped into a new category. And as far as Gina was concerned, he was an attractive guy. Why do I not know him? He's an attractive guy. I should know him. And so she kind of intrigued. She shared that with the other Ginettes, and like, oh, he's not hot. He's not one of us. And they would flip their hair after they said that. But she kept being intrigued. There went Fritz again. She said, there's that guy again. So finally she decided, against the advice of her other entitled cheerleader friends, she decided, I'm gonna go up and say something to this guy. So she goes up to his locker. She goes, hello, I believe your name is Fritz? Oh, yeah? And his friends are immediately like, Gina is talking to Fritz. And she goes, I guess you know I'm Gina. He said, yeah, I do know that. Listen, I've noticed you, and I'm just going to put this out there. You can do with it what you want, but I'm going to tell you something, Fritz. I think you're attractive. I think there's actually possibilities here. And there was silence as Fritz just began to salivate on his shirt. Oh. She goes, okay, that's all I'll say. You just think about that and let that just wash over you. I think you're attractive. And then off she walked. And his friends were like, what in the world was Gina saying to you? And when he told him, like, oh, shut up, she did not say that to you. And he kept trying, I'm telling you, that Gina walked up to me at my locker, and that's what like, you shut up, she did not say that, get out of here. And nobody believed it, but he knew what he'd heard. Gina had said to him, I believe you're attractive, I think there's possibilities. And Fritz, just so overwhelmed by the moment and the possibilities, did nothing. He did nothing. Well, he didn't know what to do. He's never been in this situation before. So, he just, went to sleep that night, just washing in the memories of the beauty of that moment, and then woke up the next day, and then on and went, and like a week went by, and Fritz just did nothing. So now Gina is not used to this. I told a guy he was attractive, and nothing happens? So she goes up to his locker, she goes, by the way, I stuck my neck out. I didn't need to talk to you at all. I cannot believe I tell you you're attractive and you do nothing? He's like, oh, I'm really sorry. You're going to have to forgive me, but I don't know what I'm doing. And there was something about that was kind of cute. She's like, well, okay, I ain't never been in this situation before. Well, okay, because I'm a doofus. Yeah, I know, okay, about the doofus status. I know about that. So something warms her heart. She decides to give him another chance. She goes, okay, well, I would expect that would bring a response to you, because I know, but I don't know what to do about things like this. I ain't never had a girlfriend. She's like, well, there's things you do. You can give me a call. I'll give you my number. You can give me a call. He's like, wait. And he gets his tablet out, rips out a piece of paper, and with his number 2 lead pencil says, wait, start that slower. Give you a call. How often? Every night. Every night. What else? It's like, well, this is kind of creepy. You have to write it down. I know, but I'm kind of dumb in this way. Fine. There was something lovable about the way he said that. Well, sit down at my table at lunch. Sit down at your table at lunch. What else? Put notes in my locker. Put notes in your locker. Does locker have 1D or 2? Never mind. Just move on. So she goes, well, we can go out on the weekend. How about that? We go out on a date. Oh, go out on a date. Okay, that'd be good. Since you're writing things down, maybe give me some flowers from time to time. Give you some flowers. Okay, got it. And so she gives him this list of things, and it's a little creepy that she has to tell him all the exact details. But, okay, things are going to, you're going to see results now, Gina. This is going to be amazing. So he folds this up, jams it into the back pocket of his jeans, and off he goes. And there was a change. She did see results the next day. Fritz sits down at her table, and all the other girls were going, whatever, why are you at our table? Flipping their hair. And Fritz says, okay, well, here I am at your table. Yeah. Well, I got to go now. We're having a Jell-O slurping contest over in the corner. And back he went to his table of doofuses. And that night, she got a phone call from him. Her phone, yeah, yes. Yeah, this here's Fritz. Yeah. And this is your phone call. Click. And that's it. But she remembered he's kind of dumb at this. It's going to take some time. She finds notes in her locker. When she goes, oh, okay, finally a note from Fritz. Fritz, to Rita. Gina, that was her name. To Gina. She had a nickname, Rita. And this here is your note. And that's it. The next day was, here's note number 2. She would get a phone call. Okay, I'm calling you again. Bye. And off she would go. Well, things have got to pick up. So that weekend she hears without warning, this clatter trap of a truck sputtering in front of her house, and he's beeping. She's like, you're beeping for me? I am Gina. Whew. You do not beep for me. And so she goes, oh, whatever. She goes, and he goes, okay, here's your date. All right, let's see how this goes. And he takes her down to the local Walmart, and there in the foyer is a big claw machine. So she watches over his shoulder while he spends about $3 worth of quarters on the claw machine. Then he takes her back home. There was her date, and off she went. And it didn't really improve much after that. The Tuesday of the second week, he did show up. Hey, I got something for you. What's that? I got some flowers. Well, good. Okay, things are starting to pick up. And he pulls out a little tomato paste can with yellow dandelions in it. Here's your flowers. Okay, got to run. And off he went. Somehow, to the amazement of Gina's friends, the Ginettes, she continued to put up with this and continued to put up with this. And how in the world? Well, he's learning. But finally, after a month, she'd had all she could take. And she stormed to his locker. She goes, I believed you could possibly be someone I was interested in. I cannot believe. I don't ever want to be on the same hemisphere with you again. I don't want to hear your name mentioned. In fact, I think I will immediately slap anyone who says the name Fritz for the rest of my life. I want to ban you and burn you from my memory. I don't want any. And Fritz was just stunned. Wow. Not only had he never had a girlfriend, he'd never had a girl scream at him like this. And he just looked at her. She goes, do you understand? Well, I'm out of here. And as she starts to walk, he goes, wait a second. She turns around. And Fritz reaches in his back pocket, pulls out that little set of penciled rules, and he goes, tell me what rule I broke. Wait for it. And end of parable. Parable, I told you, right? Parable. Now, I hope you piecing together in your mind. See, Gene is kind of like the God figure who inexplicably reaches out and loves humans. David even said, what is it with you and humans? That's a paraphrase of one of the Psalms. Like, what is it? You have this soft place in your heart for humans. Why do you like humans? It doesn't make any sense. And so God invites us to begin a relationship with him. But we misunderstand and we become Fritz Christians. We say, well, what rule did I break? I'm following the rules. God's what we call very, very smart. And he can tell when your heart's not in it. Now, I say this because I think if we're going to thrive, we need to go beyond the rules, and we need to kind of merge into the romance system. And I think there's a lot of Christians who have not gotten past that. I, for one, I will confess to you, I don't know what age it was, but I was well into adulthood before I realized it was not about rules. I did not understand what grace was. I could have taught a lesson on grace. I could have told you some verses about grace, but I didn't understand. I truly thought it was about, because part of the church I grew up in was very, and I think churches back then all weren't they kind of, just very rules oriented. It was like, you got to be a church. We had services 3 times a week, and we were pretty sure God was counting Wednesdays, okay? Midweek Bible study. So you had to be there. I remember my mother saying, as long as the church doors are open, we're going to be in that church. Didn't matter what the weather was, we were going to be in that church, and you had to, because what if something happens and you're not in church? Uh-oh, so much for that salvation. You broke a rule. You had to pay 10%. And so in this kind of climate, and you can't touch that, don't ever think about drinking that, don't eat any of that, stay away from that, don't smoke, don't swear, don't chew, and don't go out with girls that do. Was that it? Something like that. Close enough. So when you grow up in that kind of legalistic attitude, you start to ask, well, wait, what if, supposing I only gave 9.5, would that still, that's close. We could round off to 10. What if it's not exactly 10%? And what if I do skip a Wednesday night Bible study? What's going to happen then? I don't know. I remember hearing from the pulpit, one of our preachers, he was commending one of our elders. His nickname was Jug. That's what we called him, Jug. And he's like, yeah, Jug over here, I'm real proud of him. He said he had tickets to, grew up in Pittsburgh area. He said he had tickets to the Pirates game, but it was a Wednesday night. And I asked Jug why he didn't go to the ball game, and he said, because I realized, what if I was in the stadium during that baseball game and the Lord came back? Ooh. I was about like 11 or 12, and that made a big impression. Yeah. Whoa. Because it doesn't matter how much Jug had done in his life. Doesn't matter if he was covered by the blood of Jesus. He's in the stadium. Oh, come on, seriously? During a ball game? And the trumpet of the Lord sounds, and Jug's like, not going anywhere. Come on. Trying to jump, trying to get up there, and it's just not happening. He is not going to be spirited up into heaven because it's Wednesday, and you broke a rule, pal. And that's the mindset I grew up in. I don't know if you did. For me, Judaism was, I'll try that again. For me, Christianity was Judaism part 2. Okay, that's all it was. Just a new set of rules. Yeah, we don't follow those rules of Moses. We have a new set of rules you have to follow if you want to keep your salvation. And Moses, just hung in the air when I grew up. So because of that, it took me a long time to break past that and to move on to what I think God wants us to do, how he wants us to thrive, not bound in rules. What do I got to do? How much of this do I, oh, wow, seriously? Okay, so I can't go past that line. Can the end of my shoe touch the line? Can I tip over if like a little bit of my shoe is slightly over? That's the mindset of the people who are rules Christians, who are Fritz Christians. Let's have a look. I'll eventually get around to Scripture. Don't panic. I will get there. Galatians was the worst church that we know of, if Paul's writings are any indicator, for this mindset. We got to perform. We got to impress God. We got to earn our way into heaven. So Paul said to the Galatians, the whole book was written for what is the matter with you people? That's a summary of the book of Galatians. All right, so we're going to Galatians 5 as he's closing up. As you can see, we have dark screens. Yes, and they light up. Galatians 5:16. So I say, Paul says, in contrast to this frightening, I've got to earn God, don't tick him off, follow the rules mentality, Paul says, live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature. No, that's not how it works, the Galatians might have argued. You have to have rules for people, or they will gratify the sinful nature. And Paul says, no. Live by the Spirit. You mean that'll do it? For the sinful nature desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the sinful nature. They are in conflict with each other, so you do not do what you want. Okay, we pretty much knew that part. Now, but if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under law. If you follow the Spirit, if I can elaborate a little bit, you will do better than following rules. Rules Christians don't do well because they're just like Fritz. Do I have to? Okay. Oh, man, we have extra services. Oh, come on. Do we have to hold our hands during this song? Oh, man, come on. That's rules. That's Fritz Christians. If you want to thrive, be led by the Spirit, you are not under law. And here's what I discovered that the Spirit will do for us. I'm going to use a word not in the Bible, but I think it exemplifies, it perfectly encapsulates what the Bible's telling us. I think the Spirit nudges us. There are a lot of arguments in Christianity over what the Spirit does or doesn't do, okay? But I believe with all my heart, the kind of righteousness that will be pleasing to God will happen when you start following the nudge. Now, let me tell you how I discovered the nudge. I got married, and classic scenario. So I'm talking at a table, we're at some friend's house. I'm like, oh, man, you should let me tell you a story about Greg. This one time, Greg and I, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling a story, all of a sudden, boom, ow. Something hit me under the table. I'm like, something. Anyway, so Greg and I, we were in the, ow, what is that? And I look at my wife, she's like, did you just kick me? What are you talking about? I'm like, all right, I do. So afterwards, I find out, why were you kicking me under the table? She goes, ugh. She goes, that's Greg's cousin you were talking to. Ooh. Ah, yeah. All right, so don't ask me if I kicked you. I'm trying to be subtle. I'm trying to tell you. So that was a little system. I don't like this system. I still don't like it after 34 years of marriage, but it'll like all of a sudden poke, what? Huh? Okay. I don't know what I just said, but I'm sorry for whatever it was. Sometimes I'll mistake, like a dog will walk under the table or something like, okay, listen. What I said was completely inappropriate. My wife's looking at me. I didn't do that. Oh, it's a dog. Okay, I'm sorry. Or I bumped my leg against the foot of the table and I just start apologizing. It's like, I don't know. But that's kind of the nudge system. Now, I really think the Holy Spirit works this way. I think it is. Instead of thinking, does the Bible, is there a verse against this? All right, it's open game. Woohoo! Because I don't see anything in the Bible. This was never intended to be Judaism Part 2, the New Testament. It was never intended to be a rule book. Think of it as a love manual. Let me get you started, Paul and the other writers would say. Here's some things God loves. Now you're on your own. You figure that out from there. Give you a good example of this. Bad example, good example. My friend Jerry, both friends from back home. My friend Jerry used to date my older sister. And married a lady named Carol. I was friends with them all. So one time, Jerry, a group of us are standing around the church basement, and we're having one of these guys. Now and then guys, I'm going to let you in on this, ladies. Now and then guys stand around in a circle and have women. You can't live with them, you can't live without them kind of discussions, Oh, let me tell you about my wife. I wasn't supposed to tell any of you that we do that. But we were having one of those. Jerry's like, oh, you can't believe. No, I got all of you beat. Carol, get this. Carol, I'm driving home from work, and I suddenly remember, it's Carol's birthday. Yikes. So he pulls into some department store, goes to the ladies section. She's like, hey, listen, I need to get a dress quick. She's like, well, what size is your wife? Oh, I don't know, 3 or something. And so how about this one? Yeah, sure, that's good. Wrap it up, put it in a box. So he comes home. He's like, Carol, happy birthday. And he hands her, whatever, the Gimbel's bag, whatever it was. And she opens it up, and there's still this box, with the white tissue paper and just this dress, like, slumped in there. And then Jerry says, and then she starts crying. I just plunked down way more money than I wanted to spend. I'm putting like $80 on this dress. And she starts crying. Now, little did he know, Carol, his wife, is across the room. And she's like, wait a second. So she comes over, let me tell you why I started crying. Because I knew exactly what he did. He was on his way home from work, did not put any time into this whatsoever, suddenly remembered it was my birthday, rifled through as quick as he could, grabbed something off the rack, threw it in the bag, and handed it to me for my birthday. And Jerry's like, yeah? And we're all like, yeah, what? I don't get it. She goes, I'd have rather he'd taken 5 minutes, maybe made a little card. Instead of buying a dress, make a little card for me out of construction paper and glue it on and I love you, Carol, or something like that took a little bit of time. Yeah, but that one was $80. None of us understood what she was talking about. The guys didn't, Because for me, I'll take something I can use. Lunch meat is good. But But we began to realize on the day, so that's what it's about. You would like to know that we put some thought into, okay, I think I'm getting what this is all about. And for Jerry, couldn't figure out, I followed the rules. I gave her a gift. What is wrong with this? Okay, now, a good example. My friend Jeff, when we were all in high school, we all went to camp together, and my friend Greg and Jeff and I would sometimes go to each other's house and stuff. And one time, Jeff was a preacher's kid, and he was staying at Greg's house. Greg and I kind of had a different mentality than Jeff. We were like, if they didn't tell you, you couldn't. It's open game, okay? Then improvise. You can do it, you know. And so why were you on the neighbor's roof? You never told me I could not get on the neighbor's roof, okay? You never spelled that out for me. You know, you can plead ignorance. Well, Jeff and Greg were riding their bikes, and Greg's like, hey, let's go down here. I never went down this trail. And they ride their bikes down this trail, and suddenly they came to what looked like an abandoned racetrack. It's like, whoa, I've never seen this before. It was like cinder track and, you know, weeds overgrown. And oh, man, this would be great. Let's ride our bikes around this circle. And Jeff's like, no, I don't think we should. Why? I don't think my dad wants me to do this. Your dad knows about this track? How in the world? This is Jeff Knoll, by the way. Pittsburgh guy over here. I can make references. Yeah, I don't think this, and your dad told you couldn't go on this track? And he's like, no, well, let's go. He's like, it just doesn't seem like the kind of place my dad would want me to go. And Greg just looked at him like, what is the matter with you? Matter of fact, Greg told me a few weeks later, it's like, yeah, I had Jeff over at my house. He told me the whole thing. I'm like, what's the matter with him? Let's get on the neighbor's roof. Come on. Because we had a different mentality. It's like, you have to spell out exactly what I can or can't do, or else, you know, anything could happen. And I realized later when I became a parent, that it's like, wow, that's a good kid. I'm going to go beyond, even though my parents didn't spell it out exactly. I'm going to start getting the feel of what I think they might want. And that's the way it's supposed to work. The Spirit will follow you everywhere. There is no dark corner of the world that you can creep into where the Holy Spirit will not say, hey, how about this? What about that? And you might want to fight it. I don't remember any verses of Scripture about that. Are you trying to make a rule book out of this? Well, I just thought. So let me give you some fun examples of what I think are just wonderful stories about people who followed the Spirit. Weren't going by weren't trying to do the rule book mentality, but going by what the Spirit did. First of all, before I go into all that, there's a couple of disclaimers. I have to tell you, this may not happen to you. You may never get the nudge if you don't ever act on it. I heard a British writer named Malcolm Muggeridge. Anyone ever hear this guy? I heard him at a conference one time, and he was telling about a friend of his. He said, this friend of mine, he was saying it very Britishly, you know, this friend of mine was on an inter-Atlantic flight. Okay, enough of the accent. But he says this happened. He was sitting in first class where you could like face across. There's people on the other side. And this guy's reading a magazine, Christian man. He looks up and he sees this guy on the row across the room from him, and he sees a word on the man's forehead. He's like, that can't be possible. And he turns away. He's like, that's weird. It looked like there was a word on that guy's forehead. And he looked up again, and there was that word. And the word was in red ink, or what looked like red ink, adultery on this man's forehead. He's like, okay, I'm going to put safe money in the fact that there cannot possibly be a man wearing adultery on his forehead, the word adultery. And he's like freaking him out. And he's like, Lord, I don't know what's going on here. And he keeps looking up, and there's that word, adultery, on this man's forehead. He's like, oh, wow. And the man starts to get a sick feeling in his stomach because he starts to feel like this must be from God, and this means I have a responsibility. And just when he's pondering that, he looks up again, and now there's a different word on the man's forehead. And it's a woman's name, Loretta or something. And he's like, oh, boy. So this man who was a follower of God on this flight, wanting to just have a nice relaxing trip, reading his magazine. Oh boy, the man had adultery on his forehead, and then he had a woman's name. And now there's nothing on his forehead. Okay, that looks supernatural. So the man, like, could go against every belief, every social instinct he has, walks up to the guy and is like, excuse me, sir, yes? You're going to think this is absolutely insane. It's going to sound insane to you. I'm sitting over there. I don't know you at all. But I looked up and you had the word adultery written on your forehead. I don't know who you are, seriously. And the man's eyes got really big. And he goes, wait, there's more. And then I looked up and it didn't say adultery anymore. It said Loretta on your forehead. And this man got really quiet. I'm like, who are you? Have you been stalking me? How do you know about this? He goes, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I will tell you this. I'm a follower of Jesus. And I saw 2 words in your forehead. I feel like I have to tell you that. I mean, said, wow, that's exactly accurate. I didn't think anyone knew about this. Well, apparently God does, and so he ended up praying with the guy, and I don't know what more happened. But here's where Malcolm Muggeridge, this very honest British guy, said, I have to tell you, nothing like that ever happens to me. In fact, as I tell it, no doubt there's some like, what? Shut up. That didn't happen. You know, maybe a little bit in your head. But Malcolm said, nothing like that ever happens to me, but I know why. He said, I'm not going to get up and tell anyone they have adultery on their forehead. That's why that never happens to me. Being very honest with all of us, like, well, okay, this guy, for being a keynote speaker, this guy's, I like his honesty. But that may be the thing. You have to be willing to act on this. There was a great adventure in Christianity that a lot of people don't know about. St. Patrick, yeah, that one. The famous St. Patrick went to Ireland, as well you know, trained by Rome, and went there with this little formula for how to be a good Roman Christian. And when he got to know the Irish, he's like, forget this. Throws away the formula and says, I'm just going to teach these people Jesus. And there's beautiful little Irish Christianity kind of evolved all separately from Rome and all its corruption. For 200 years, there was this glorious page of Christianity. It was just pure Irish Celtic Christianity. But one of the things they did in this chapter of Christianity was the Irish saints would do this, or the Irish Christians would do this thing called a peregrinatio. It doesn't matter what the word is, but they would get in a round boat made of skins. Now, it's strategic that it was round. They would get in a round boat and they'd pray to God, God, you have a message to give to the world. So we're going to get in this boat and you're going to take it somewhere. We don't know where it's going. It's round. They can't steer it. So they would just get in a current. And first, ended up in Scotland, ended up in northern Europe. That is some reliance on the Spirit there. Now, God, I don't think is going to ask you to get into a round boat and just start sailing. But I think there's a lot of arenas of your life that God is going to say to you, come on. You're going to feel that nudge. And the more sensitive you become to it, the more you will feel that nudge. Sometimes you won't like the nudge, but it will come to you. My friend Jim Hamer preached in Long Island. He was raised in a fairly conservative church in central Pennsylvania. And he moved to Long Island where it's like, wow, everyone in this church. He said, everyone in this church smokes. Like all the adults, they all smoke. They all, between Sunday school and church, they all smoke. He's like, I don't know what to do about this. I mean, in addition, there were other things too that concerned his conservative sensibilities. But he's like, wow, I don't know what to do. And so he wondered, should I have a series of sermons against smoking? Would that be the way to go? But he thought, you know what, how about I just talk about following the nudge of the Spirit? How about that? I don't know what words he used, but so he began a series on how to just romance God and how to listen to that. And he said, I never mentioned cigarettes, but he said within a year, everyone but about 3 had quit smoking. That's the way it's supposed to work. Stop doing that or you'll go to hell doesn't work near as well as how can I please the lover of my soul? I was jogging a few years ago. I'm going to give you a pause to do your cruel laughter. Go ahead, let it out. It was, 20 years ago. But I was jogging, and I was almost done. I was near my parents' house, and I was a couple blocks away, almost done. I was like, and I'm going up a grade, and I see this big swollen bag of McDonald's bag. I didn't even know they made McDonald's bags. It was some big group, and some slob had just tossed out the window. And there it was on the side there. I'm like, what does it matter with people? Why would you just throw that out the window? And I jogged past, and then it came. You could pick it up. I didn't make the mess. I'm jogging. Hello. You can try arguing. So I jogged a little further, but you're the follower of Jesus. I don't remember any scriptures about picking up litter, nothing, but you're the follower of Jesus. I've got to run. I've got to be dedicated to my run. I've got a set route, but you're a follower of Jesus. And it just kept hounding me. And that's what you'll find It will not go away. So now I'm about half a block up the hill from the swollen McDonald's bag. So finally, fine. So I jog back, pick up this giant McDonald's bag, and I'm carrying it back, ready to throw it away when I get home. Now, what was funny about the thing was people looking out their window and a man jogging past with a McDonald's bag this big. Like, dude, you're going to have to jog to Argentina if you want to work that off. I don't know what you're eating there. Here's another example. A friend of mine, these are simple little things. A friend of mine was looking for a good parking space. You know how it is. Like, I want a good, come on, no. Lady, pull out. All right, fine. You know, that whole search, I was fine. And he was like 23. And he thought, and all of a sudden he got that nudge. Why? Why are you looking for a fabulous space? There are people who are much less healthy than you that need those good spaces. And he said at that moment, he realized, I'm never going to look for the best parking space again. So he just parked like all the way down, straight down the door. Easier to find your car that way, he said. But that was a nudge. Now, you are not going to find Scripture. If you search through Scripture, you're not going to find anything on parking spaces. I promise you. Well, then, I don't have to do that. But that's the thing about the Spirit. It will follow you everywhere. You will get nudges on all sorts of weird things. My friend Mike was in downtown Pittsburgh. He was behind, standing in the counter. Apparently a girl, like, brand new to the cash register. She was making mistakes left and right. People, come on, lady, and getting all frustrated with her. Finally, he gets up to her, and by the time he gets up to her, he said her eyes were kind of fighting back tears, and her lips were trembling a little bit, and he just felt like, I feel sorry for this poor girl. It was frustrating waiting for her, and she just wants to cry. So he made his purchase, walked outside, and there across the street from this little store was a floral shop. And he got the nudge. You could really light up this girl's day. I don't have money to buy flowers for complete strangers. He tried arguing, but 5 minutes later, he came in with a little bouquet of flowers, and he waited in line, went up to her, and he said, here, nobody should have as bad a day as you're having today. And then he just walked away. Now, what I love about that story is he didn't know whatever ended up with this girl. But I promise you, if you could somehow hunt down that girl 30 years later, I promise you she remembers the day some guy gave her flowers because she was having a rough day. That has stood out in her mind, emblazoned in her memory, because that's the beautiful things that happen. And the beautiful things that don't happen to you, if you're like, oh, what do I have to do? What's the bare minimum? Forget the rules. Paul says, if you walk by the Spirit, if you live by the Spirit, you are not under law. You produce so much better of a result. All kinds of aspects. I know in prayer, be listening when you are in prayer and someone's name pops up. I think that's strategic. I think God wants you to. So sometimes the nudge can be just a memory of a face of some friend of yours. My two friends of mine, Shannon and her other friend, I'll just say her other friend, because her other friend, a minister's wife, had just recently found out that her husband had been cheating on her, minister's wife. And so my friend Shannon was praying for her, and she wasn't praying, she was just praying in general, and all of a sudden, wow, wow, wow. She sees her friend's face pop up in her mind, and she's like, and along with that, as she began to pray for her friend, she starts praying, and this one phrase pops into her mind, you can do it. And she's like, why did that thought pop into my head? Was that just my brain being weird and popping random thoughts? But as she continued to pray for a friend, you can do it. That phrase, you can do it, kept coming up. She's like, that's weird. Why is this? So she got done praying, and she kept remembering that. Why did that phrase keep coming up? So she finally calls her friend a couple states away. She goes, hey, weird thing. She goes, weird thing. I was praying for you yesterday, and the phrase, you can do it, came up in my head. Do you know anything about that? And her friend said, what time yesterday? She goes, I don't know. It was like 3:15 or so. And there was a long pause. She said, at 3:15 yesterday, I was meeting with a counselor. And right around 15 minutes into our session, he said to me, do you think you can ever heal? If you can ever trust your husband again? And I said, I don't know. And meanwhile, 2 states away in prayer, this phrase, you can do it. She goes, well, God wants you to know that you can do it. That was about 10 years ago, and My friend and her husband, they've healed, and they're still together. She can do it. She did do it. So many interesting things that we miss out on by just being rules Christians, by being Fritz Christians. I love this one. A lady named Jillian told this story. She said, so many times, we have this callous view of street people or homeless people, like, yeah, you probably got that way through your own stupid mistakes. That's probably a pretty good guess. Doesn't make them any less in need. But Jillian said that was not the case. Her husband had abandoned her. She couldn't pay her rent. She got booted out of her apartment. She stayed in homeless shelters, her and her 3-year-old daughter. And finally she said, we reached a place where we couldn't go back to the homeless shelter. We had nothing. We were stuck in the city. We had nothing. She said, I had cried every tear I could cry. And she said it was like somewhere around midday, my daughter and I, not knowing where else to go, just sat down in front of a brick wall. And I had no idea what was going to happen in our life next. Now, meanwhile, there's a guy in traffic. We don't know his end of the story, but somehow or another, he looks over at this girl. She wasn't holding up a sign or anything, and he sees a lady and her daughter sitting up against a brick wall, and he gets a nudge. And so he fights through city traffic, and he pulls over to the side of the road, and he gets out, and he walks up to her sheepishly, and he goes, I don't know anything about your situation, but I saw you, and I think God wants me to give you this. And he handed her $20. And he said, I don't know why. He clearly was having a nudge. He didn't even know what the details were. Gets back in his car, and as he began to drive away, she looked at his car driving away, and there was a bumper sticker that said, Jesus loves you. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have seen Jesus loves you bumper stickers. I'm like, yeah, that's going to win the world to Jesus. It's your Jesus loves you bumper sticker. Woo-hoo-hoo. I apologize for my cynicism, okay? But I thought oh, come on. Is that really getting through to anyone? Jillian saw that bumper sticker from the man who gave her $20 as he started to pull away. Jesus loves you. And she said, I didn't know that. She said the $20 was just enough to at least revive her with a little bit of hope, and it was enough to get her through one more night, and then she found somewhere where she could get a job and start working, and everything started to come back together, and she goes, now I'm in a secure situation. I have a job. I'm raising my daughter, and we're back at church. It hadn't been since I was a little girl, because some guy with a bumper sticker said, Jesus loves me. Jesus loves you. Gave me $20. Now, here's what I love about this. That man has absolutely no idea. As far as he's for, I don't know, I gave a $20 to who knows what she did with it. He doesn't know, but he was obedient to the Spirit. You may not always get the happy endings. You may not always find out, you may not always be the one to see the harvest. But if you follow the nudge, people's lives are changed, absolutely. Church leaders, one more thing, and then church leaders, it's a big temptation to find out amazing things that are moving. Oh, look at that church over there. The Spirit's really moving over there. Wow, they're doing this new thing. They're using flannel graph. Wow. Okay, that was a silly example. I don't think. They're using flannel graph. Let's find out. That big church, that big successful church, they have a big tent out front, and they make balloon animals for the kids or whatever. And this church over here, look, they're doing a new thing where they have clay sculpturing going on during the service. I'm making this stuff up. But it's our temptation to say, you know what, hey, wow, look what they're doing. And then let's start doing what they're. Now, I'm not saying don't ever use anyone's idea. We all do that to some extent. But here's the danger, church leadership. You're using secondhand convictions. Somebody over there prayed and asked the Spirit to guide them, and they come up with, I hope it wasn't the Spirit that told them to do clay sculpture during the service. But you get the idea. And you're almost cheating the system by saying, well, let's use somebody else's conviction. They prayed, they asked the Spirit to lead them, and let's use that idea. How about, if you want to start thriving and not just surviving, how about as a leadership, you pray and let's ask the Lord to show us where we should go. Let's get in that round boat and just say, Lord, take us wherever we will go. Because I think the romance system, the system of love, works so much better than the system of law. I'll close with this last story. My cousin Jimmy was the oldest cousin in the pack of cousins that we all had on my dad's side. And so there's certain responsibilities when you're the oldest cousin, because whatever Jimmy could get away with, we could tell, Jimmy gets to. Well, I'm not Jimmy's dad. And so this was back in the late 70s when we all wanted enormous hair. We all wanted 18 yards of hair. And our old school dads, no, not as long as you're under this roof. It seems to be all about that roof. What if we removed the roof? Would I get my hair longer? Anyway, so we kept, come on, Dad, let me have, no, you're going to the barber. Well, Jimmy started growing his hair long when he got to high school. And to hear him and my Uncle Mac getting these arguments was something to be, you could sell tickets to this. It's like, oh, they're arguing again. Jimmy and Uncle Mac are arguing, and they're going back and forth because Mac was this sarcastic family. They were back and forth, oh, yeah, hey, you want a ribbon for your hair there, Jimette? You want something? Hey, I don't want to drive you into town. Someone's going to think I'm cheating on your mom. They're going to think there's a girl in the truck. What's funny is Jimmy was built like a water buffalo. He was this big football player, and so that was all the funnier, that anyone would mistake him for a girl. But he had this long Italian wavy hair, and it just kept growing and growing, like, Jimmy, grow that hair. Because we go, look at Jimmy, gets to grow his hair long. Well, I don't care. That's my brother's decision. I'm not going to, we would say to my dad. And so on it went, and the more... Finally, Jimmy graduated from high school, so now it's like open game. He knows Dad cannot tell me anything. But Dad could still insult, and the insults did fly, and the sarcasm flew. And Jimmy said, the more Uncle Mac would tell him, belittle him and insult him into getting his hair cut, the more determined, I am not cutting this hair. And it just kept growing and growing, this big, massive Absalom-looking thing. And... he said one time I was like, okay, I'm going to the barber's. And he stopped over at his parents' house and he got some more wisecracks from his dad. It's like, I'm not going to the barber's. I'm not cutting his hair because he keeps doing that. And so on and on it went. Well, I was away at college and my Uncle Mac had an ulcer and they had him in the hospital and they finally said, we can't stop this ulcer's bleeding. We can't stop it. And so he said to my Aunt Josie, you're going to have to, I'm afraid you're going to have to gather the family, and this is probably his last night. And so she's making phone calls. She's, Jimmy's the oldest, Jennifer and TC and John Gregg and Jeff, and they're all coming in from every direction. They're all gathering into the hospital like, wow, Mom, what's going on here? And then a phone rang at Jimmy's house, and it was my Aunt Josie. She said, come on to the hospital. So anyway, they all gather in. I just thought I'd try to weave that into the plot here. So they all show up. So TC, all these big Italian guys are all crowding in the room, and they're gathering around the bed, seeing their dad, this rock of a guy now with tubes feeding his nose, barely, just kind of completely pale, just pathetic. And they're gathering ready, like, hey, where's Jimmy? I don't know. Did you call Jimmy? He was the first one. I called him first. He said he was coming. And so they're all wondering where Jimmy is. Well, finally, Jimmy makes it to the hospital and walks in the hospital room. And they're like, whoa. Because the reason Jimmy was late, he stopped at the barber's first. And it wasn't like a whole haircut. It was like a 1940s buzz, one of those kind. And they're like, wow. Well, they're too upset. They're too grief-stricken to think about Jimmy's haircut. But we'll have to ask them about that later. Well, my Uncle Mac makes it through the night. The doctor said he was diagnosed as too ornery to die. So makes it through, starts to recover. It's all good. Finally, when the smoke settles, dust clears, Uncle Mac's out of danger. Finally, they go, Jimmy, what the heck did you do with your hair? Jimmy said, well, I figured it was the last time Dad might look at me. I wanted it to be a look that he liked. And I remember Jimmy telling me this, and I realized, aha. Love does so much more than laws. The rule system, my Uncle Mac yelling at Jimmy, come on, get your hair cut. You look like, back and forth. The law, that hair did not get cut. But when it came down to love, I might lose my dad. All of a sudden, hair gets cut. All of a sudden, something that the law could not achieve starts to happen. All of a sudden, a new level of righteousness that you've never known about begins to blossom in your life because, you've kicked up to a new level. You're starting to follow the nudge of the Spirit. If you are led by the Spirit, you are no longer under law.